Cataclysm, dark days ahead. Nope. We're talking about Magiclysm. Have you ever wanted to sling zippy zappies from your finger? Maybe stomp the ground to fling enemies back, or fire blasts with your brute strength in one of those animes you've watched. Or perhaps you want to visualize a tentacle flesh being pulled from your body and proceed to slap someone with it. Or maybe you just want to break the balance of the game by dealing massive damage to enemies without even breaking a sweat. All those sound like a good deal? Great, now get your magic books out and learn all the spells you need, which will take you weeks. Yeah, see these are the schools of magic you can learn from. However, you can only pick 4 from the 8. Mix and match them if you want, but these 4 are the best. Those over there are garbage. Now JK, don't let anybody tell you how to play the game, just have fun with it. Just not those. But you might ask yourself, what are these? Well, here's a brief informational for them. The Animist summons creatures and focuses on summoning, which is pretty trash because you have to preemptively create them, which just doesn't work. The Stormshaper is pretty decent, having good damage and has a spell that increases your move speed, but you end up shocking yourself half the damn time. The Earthshaper doesn't have any particularly useful spells other than letting you see through walls for a split second. And if you happen to coat yourself in rocks, it's nearly impossible to stop the damn bleeding. The Druid is pretty decent, being able to create one of the best bows in the game and being able to purify water sources, but lacks actually useful spells. Magus is dope. It has spells that do pure damage and punch through armor as if it wasn't even there. Kelvinist has spells that set almost everything on fire, but I would rather something else be on fire than me, and does crazy amounts of damage. The Technomancer is a double-edged sword, as the more bionic power you'll have, the less mana you'll have, but to make up for it, has one of the most powerful spells in the game in the form of a gigantic mega powerful sneeze, and the ability to open locked doors, see through walls with X-ray vision, and turn yourself into a modern paladin, smiting your enemies down into little pieces. Biomancer is extremely useful, being able to grant temporary buffs to combat abilities in the form of grotesque enhancement, and create temporary weapons that can attack from a distance. These are just my opinions, don't let anybody tell you how to play the game, just have fun. Remember those schools of magic we were talking about? Yeah, you can actually smash them together to make a new one, which is a little better and gives unique things per subclass. First up, you have to find an attunement altar. They're pretty uncommon. Just go traipsing around picking flowers or whatever until you find one. They spawn in forests. Now that you've found an attunement altar, you have to be skilled with the spells from the classes you want to mix. I'll just give you a brief overview of each subclass to help you out. The Artificer is pretty good and is what you get when you mix the Stormshaper and Technomancer. It has a spell that lets you see through walls a fair distance, as well as a toolkit you can summon, and has a speed buff to crafting speed. The Aura Mage is broken and is not useful at all. You literally get no bonuses by picking it, and is mixed from the Animist and Technomancer. Biotek is dope, and is my personal favorite subclass. It has a charge dash up attack wind up punch that is pretty good, and a better upgrade to cure wounds. It also has a reduced mana penalty with electricity stored from bionics and gives you bonuses equal to uncanny dodge CBM, and stacks with its effects, as well as extra bionic slots for the torso, and is mixed from the Biomancer and Technomancer. Blood Mage is pretty weird. It has bleed resistance and a spell that adds the target's HP over the damage inflicted by the spell that's intended to one-shot the target to you. And what makes it weird is it has a second spell that turns you into a demon that makes you unable to cast spells which grants major buffs, so you can't use them both. It's mixed from the Biomancer and Animist. The Boreal Mage is kinda lame and has a spell that is a cone attack which is pretty decent. It's mixed from the Kelvinist and Technomancer. Cleansing Flame is kinda lame and has a spell that is basically a buffed fireball. It's mixed from the Druid and the Kelvinist. The Crusader is pretty decent. It gives 5 to your dexterity and doubles your hit points. It's mixed from the Druid and Technomancer. The Earth Elemental is very good. It has a spell that's a better Seismic Stomp and another spell that's a better Mega Blast. Gives 5 strength and a natural 15 armor for your entire body. It's mixed from the Biomancer and Earthshaper. The Fire Elemental is decent. It can create a reach attack whip and has a strong contact fire spell. It's mixed from the Biomancer and Kelvinist. The Force Mage is pretty good. It has a spell that deals damage in line of sight and another spell that creates an aura that damages melee attackers. It also has a buff to move speed. It's mixed from the Magus and the Stormshaper. Gaia's Chosen is a little broken, just has an ability that damages melee attackers. It's mixed from the Druid and Earthshaper. Glacier Mage is a little mediocre. It has a spell that's a better Cone of Cold and another spell that pushes enemies back in a cone. It's mixed from the Earthshaper and Kelvinist. The Golemancer is kinda weird. It has Steady, which prevents their speed from being reduced, and has a spell that pushes enemies back at the cost of health, which isn't really useful. It's mixed from the Animist and Earthshaper. The Gravity Mage is pretty useful. It has a spell that pulls things towards its center and damages them, and has the ability to climb walls without a ladder. But the downsides is that climbing down can be difficult, and has a buff that doubles carry weight. It's mixed from the Magus and Stormshaper. The Overclocker is very good. It has a spell that applies damage over time, and gives 5 to intelligence as well as a slightly faster casting speed. It's mixed from the Kelvinist and Technomancer. The Ice Elemental is pretty mediocre. It has spells that summon a set of talons that kinda suck, and deals extra cold damage on melee target hit as well as environmental resistance to cold. It's mixed from the Biomancer and Kelvinist. The Illusionist is kinda lame, and has a spell that deals decent damage in line of sight. It's mixed from the Magus and Technomancer. The Magnetism Mage is pretty good, but it's a one-trick pony. It has a spell that uses bullets as components, but this would be the only exception to any spell I would use that takes components, as it deals really good damage in line of sight. It's mixed from the Stormshaper and Earthshaper. The Permafrost Mage is broken and is not useful at all. You literally get no bonuses by picking it. It's mixed from the Kelvinist and Magus. The Radiation Mage isn't really useful, as the 2 spells it has may deal pure damage, however both of them target you within its area of effect. It's mixed from the Stormshaper and Animist. The Shaman is broken and is not useful at all. You literally get no bonuses by picking it. It's mixed from the Animist and Druid. The Shapeshifter is kinda broken. It has slightly reduced encumberment penalty to limbs. It's mixed from the Biomancer and Magus. The Soulfire isn't really useful. It has a spell that causes damage over time at the cost of health, and another spell that increases move speed at the cost of health, although in testing I didn't see an increase in move speed, and it damages melee attackers back. It's mixed from the Kelvinist and Animist. The Storm Elemental isn't really useful. It has a spell that chains damage to multiple targets but lacks in damage, and has electrical resistance and damages melee attackers. It's mixed from the Stormshaper and Biomancer. The Stormcaller is broken and is not useful at all. You literally get no bonuses by picking it. It's mixed from the Stormshaper and Druid. The Sun Mage is very good. It has a spell that damages enemies within line of sight and blinds them, and gives a 5 bonus to perception and blinds melee attackers. It's mixed from the Magus and Kelvinist. The Tundra Mage is actually pretty good. It has a spell that freezes targets in place, although it takes a long time to cast, and pairs well with its second spell that summons Winter Wolves. This subclass will probably be your top pick if you decide to use summons, and pairs well with summoning type spells. It's mixed from the Druid and Kelvinist. The Void Mage isn't really useful, and has an effect that when melee attacking targets applies a damage over time effect. It's mixed from the Animist and Kelvinist. The Vulcanist is kinda lame and has a spell that's a souped up fireball. It's mixed from the Earthshaper and Kelvinist. The Wither Mage is pretty much useless. It has a spell that has a large charge up time that deals poison damage over time, which is fairly useless. It's mixed from the Druid and Magus. Every spell, item, and attunement is subject to change, as they are not implemented yet, which is why half of them are broken. So this is just my take for what abilities they currently have. Now that we got that out of the way, you can really think about how you want to build your character. You won't accidentally learn a spell that won't work with what you want to make. Now time to get in there and do some spell slinging, shooting, firing, casting, whatever. Whoa, so who said you could start playing yet? Oh wait, I did, oops. Well, now that you're in the game, there's a couple things that can help you out. I won't go in detail, just highlight the things you absolutely want to find. Dimensional tool belts and dimensional bags. These awesome items fit tons of items inside, so you can cram all those spellbooks in them. They reduce the weight of whatever's stored inside them. And books. Keep all the spellbooks you learned from. They make good bartering for stuff from NPCs. At least 1 cauldron for making potions. Speaking of potions, they can help you out in a pinch in case you back yourself into a corner, or teleport into a room filled with enemies and you're panicking to get out. And rings that can give stat increases anywhere from 1 to 4 into strength, dexterity, intelligence, perception, as well as speed and protection. Bracers and boots that can give free spellcasts and other magical gear, just make sure you charge them with crystallized mana. Token items. These little pieces of magic transform into the object on the face of it. They can be an arming sword, broadsword, longsword, battle axe, mace, hammer, pike, quarterstaff, screwdriver set, toolbox, and Gordon Freeman's favorite, the crowbar. And a final note to any technomancers, if you find a crystallized mana nose, you found the motherlode. You aren't gone yet? Fine, here's something else that might interest you. You can turn yourself into a literal black dragon. Well, close to it. It's more like a kobold or a dragonborn like in D&D than an actual dragon. As well as mana touched, which makes you hypersensitive to mana. Basically like a transcendent human that's more in touch with mana. However, I wouldn't recommend either of these as what they give severely isn't worth it. Thank you so much for watching. I put a lot of effort into this. I might do another video on all the spells in the game, or an in-depth item catalog type deal, but I actually had motivation for this one, so no promises.